Let's go, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the LA Poker Roundup. It is September 24th. It's 24/24. I think there's a special. It's like the fifth Kobe Day of the year or something, right? This is episode number 56. We have a very, very special guest with us tonight. The myth, the legend, probably, I don't know, he might be one of the nicest guys in poker I've met here. We have Mr. Brian Hastings on the show tonight. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
And we are going to be seeing a lot more of Brian, everyone around here in the LA area, as you're going to find out tonight, in case you didn't know. And if you didn't know, he has arrived with a boom, and we'll get to that soon. But for the show tonight, basically, we are going to do the results as always. And when we get to the spoiler alert, Brian basically spiked technically, you got, I guess, second, but basically spiked the Commerce main event this weekend, and then we will do a roundup. So we are going to spend the whole evening getting to know our new neighbor, Mr. Brian Hastings. For those of you who do not know, which can't be many, Mr. Hastings is known for his 6 World Series of Poker bracelets and for a absolutely insane run against Isildur, Mr. Victor Blom, back in the day of the high-stakes nosebleeds. According to Hendon Mob, he's only got a measly $5 million plus in tournament cashes. He just happens to also be a coach for Run It Once, and is partnered with Octopi Poker now. So hopefully we'll hear a little bit about those as well. As I said, he's a quiet guy. He's a true legend that you might not have heard about because he's not as loud as some of these other guys. But we are really happy to have him on here. He's recently moved to SoCal. He's girl dad. He's just basically here to take all the money away from us local grinders because he's got to be a good dad. We're gonna have to. I don't know how I feel about that, Brian. We're gonna find out. All right. But before we jump in with that, let's quick go through the results. We had a very, very exciting week. Honestly, I don't think we've ever had this many series going simultaneously in LA since we started this show.
So
right?
crazy.
Yeah. So let's hop right in because we're going to go over to a place we almost never talk about, Lucky Lady. So we mention it now and then. I pop over there for the, afternoon small event, but we're running a series. They've been running this series, the fall kickoff special. And, there are not many events in this series. And our buddy, Mr. Jeremy Hambone Hamey, has won 2 of the events. Last weekend, he took down that big $75K guarantee that we were talking about. Was a pretty good value, pretty good option. He took that one down on his very first visit to Lucky Lady, I might add. He's never been there to play a tournament, just shows up, happens to roll in because the one day he doesn't win at the Gardens, rolls in, bags a chip lead, wins the thing. And before we can even report on it, he goes back and wins the Big O event number 6. So congratulations, Jeremy, having one hell of a year at these things. Year of the Jeremy, indeed. Yeah, it's crazy. We're definitely gonna have to have Jeremy on at some point and tell us the secrets of beating these low lower buy-ins around, like beating all of these big field low buy-ins. It's crazy. So speaking of his stomping grounds, the Gardens, though, let's hop over there. Kevin's been doing a great job giving us all of the results from the last week. So last Wednesday, there was a 8-way chop where Mr. Kazim Hashemi took over $2,500 in that chop for that was the Thursday event. The Wednesday event was Deanna was the chip leader, and they got over 2,700 plus bounties in a 9-way chop. So big chops. Derek is a fan of big chops these days, I hear. That is true. So let's keep going through the. Let me get to the picture. Here we go. The Friday night event at the Gardens had the final 4 players chop. Chip leader one they chopped was Nadir Arfai in the middle here. Carl, number 2 here. The tall smiling fella here. I guess Keefe Loud was not pictured. And then Trey Land, Lunane here, over here on the other side. She got 4th in the chop. So congratulations. Played with all these folks. Super fun. Good to see the Regs winning. Speaking of regs, the Sunday special, Mr. Donald Bolt. Speaking of recent parents, Mr. Donald Bolt in a 9-way chop, he got the first place. He had the chip lead at the time and took over 5,100 on the Saturday. And you gotta love it. You do a 9-way chop, you still win over $5,000 on a $250 buy-in. It's crazy. I love these dailies. Wait, you don't have that? I have one of those. You don't have one of those? I'm clearly, it's, you know why? It's because you're always bad mouthing the Gardens, talk about how bad you run there. All right. All right. So I'm trying to talk fast because, man, Kevin's been working overtime. Their series started this week. We'll get to it again later. SoCal Special, and we already have results. So event number 1 of the SoCal Special, David Osario was the chip leader, and he won over 2,200. The final 8 chopped. And you know what? I can't believe chops are happening. Look at this trophy. I'm not chopping for 2,200. I'm not going to chop if I'm getting like 1,200 and 8th place. If I could win this trophy, if I win the whole thing, no way. We're playing it to the bitter end. Look at that thing. It is gorgeous. Gorgeous. In event number 2, the final 2 chopped, Panit Paluith got 36.60 and the trophy, and Gokto Guval got 36.50. So I'm guessing they're pretty much dead even. But man, that trophy! How do you chop when there's this trophy involved for $10? Are you crazy? I'm hoping there was a big disparity, and Mr. Gokto got a lot of extra money because that's the only way. And then the most recent event that wrapped up, I believe this was just yesterday, number 3 had 145 entries, $14,500 prize pool, ended in a 5-way chop with George James taking home the trophy and over $3,000. And second place, Daniel Reinhardt. Third place, Judy Pearson. Fourth place, Todd Silslowski, and 5th place, Kevin Song. Kevin Song is a name we've heard a lot around these parts. Yeah. Ace Jack. Okay. So that's what's going on right there. We'll get back to the Gardens when we talk about what's happening this week. But, just as a reminder, those first 3 events did not count for our player of the year that we are running. However, event number 6 does, and event number 5 does Wednesday, tomorrow. So, a little preview. Those are events that are going to count. All right, let's head over to Commerce, where a familiar face. Look at that smiling face, Derek. Man, it's a week we can't make fun of him for not having enough trophies. Way to go. Congratulations. Derek won the event number. Was it really event number 19? Someone said the number was off. The 30K guarantee, Sunday, one day, last Sunday. Congratulations, Derek. Might add, it was I hear a word on the street, 7-way chop. I hear Derek's trophy. I'm putting, someone recommended earlier that for the player of the year, I do some work and I split the player of the year points when there's a big chop. I'm going to have to reconsider because I didn't realize that my own co-host would game the system and give up money to get his trophy and his first place and try and catch up to me. This isn't right.
Like 2 years ago, I was such a hard line, like no chop, no matter what. I don't care if we're like 12 bigs average. I'm just not chopping. But I think as I've gotten, older and wiser, I've become a little bit more of an opportunistic, chopper. And this is what you should know about me is if like I'm really tired because I've been at business conferences all week, I might be a little bit more willing to chop. If I have first place and I'm actually trophy hunting, I might be a little bit more willing to chop if there's not a lot of money up top because there's only like a 30K guarantee, right? Yeah. So I think in the main, I probably would be a lot less willing to chop because the money is pretty significant to me. So there's all these like different factors in play. And obviously just beating Ty in the player of the year was enough for me to go for that trophy.
I am, look, I'm not going to compromise my integrity. I am not going to chop for the points like you did because we're not catching up. We're not catching up to Aaron no matter what we do. So it's fine.
This is true. Yeah, this is more for just bragging rights.
Yeah. But just so you know, guys, if you play one of these one days at the Gardens with Derek and you're in a chopping situation, tell him he can have the trophy for all the money.
Yeah.
Plus EV.
There you go.
Plus EV.
It's the way to go.
All right. Now, let's hop over to the final event, the big one, the crown jewel of the weekend. And the whole reason we brought this guy on, it's like, hey, let's get one of these guys on the show. Who's this Brian Hastings guy? That's not true. I've heard of Brian, but congratulations. The final 3 players in the Commerce main event, they did end up chopping after pretty late. It was pretty late in the night, wasn't it? Probably around 11 or so, wasn't it? It was a great structure. Yeah, midnight, and we started at 11 a.m. that day. So what a long day of poker. Top three chopped here. It was a so you guys had even stacks, and we'll get to this when we do your recap. And honestly, I believe we're gonna have Mr. Paul Lee on the show as well, so we'll get his side of it. But these numbers are not what the chop actually was. These are the ICM numbers. Yeah, these are the ICM numbers. But when we hop over here, we see that Mr. Hastings actually managed to pull 80K out of this thing instead of the 75 there. So it looks like Brian got himself a nice little boost on the chop numbers himself. So that's why I said he technically got second place. Yeah, awesome. And you got a little bit from each side. Is that how it worked? Seems fair.
To do it.
Seems fair.
It left me, a little bit kind of like, oh, should I have asked for more? Or should I just sit down?
Yeah, right.
Like, oh man,
like my negotiations.
Like you said, I mean, we were all there for like 13 hours or something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm expected to at least somewhat be up to help my daughter get to school the next morning. Like, seemed reasonable.
For sure.
I don't know. But I didn't know that I wasn't going to get a chance to play for the trophy, so I was a little bummed about that.
Yeah. So speaking of the trophy, that did go to the chip leader, to what was his first name here? Sungmin Cho. So congratulations to Sungmin Cho. He has a really interesting story here outlined by Poker News. It turns out that Sungmin he's not a local. He is just in town for his honeymoon. So he is actually, according to the story here, he is here on his honeymoon with his wife from South Korea. So they're just here, happen to be here from Seoul, and his wife let him play the tournament. And I bet she's probably happy that she did at this point. That's going to pay for your honeymoon and then some.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that there's a Los Angeles to Seoul kind of honeymoon good connection, because last year,
yeah, maybe that's right. Yeah.
Last year, I won the big tournament, a big tournament at the Gardens. Basically, this exact same kind of tournament. It was a 500K guarantee, and I won it 2 weeks before my wedding. And I went to Korea for my honeymoon. So I don't know. Yeah, I think LA, Korea, if you guys, you got a wedding coming, plan your honeymoons accordingly and play poker right around there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we need to test this. I think we need to test
pick
it.
a main event.
I actually went to Korea as part of my honeymoon as well.
Nice.
So like when we were hanging out at the end of the tournament, I was talking to Sudman about this, and like he'd say, "Oh, that's wild. Wait, you're here on your honeymoon? How about there?"
I know, right? I think there's a connection. I mean, you only recently started living in LA, and this is the segue. Let me just quick wrap up the final table, before we jump into talking with you here. So, congratulations, Sungmin Cho, first place. Second place in the masterful negotiating, or perhaps leaving money on the table, who knows. Brian Hastings got second. Paul Lee third, who is having a hell of a week. If you check, Frank started a thing on our Instagram. He's starting a Player of the Week segment, and Paul is winning that handedly, because he not only got third in this, he chopped the XL bounty for away, and he got 11th, I believe, in the mystery bounty the week before. So he just crushed this commerce series this month. So way to go. We will be looking to have Paul on the show pretty soon, so can't wait to have him on. So congratulations, Paul. And then in fourth place was Naoya Morizumi, who was a vlogger from Japan. I'm not sure if he's in the area temporarily or what, but he was vlogging. He actually had some additional help vlogging the whole time. Sat by him for a while.
Like following him around.
Yeah,
just
switching his cameras. Yep. Doing data and batteries.
From what I heard, there was a group of maybe like 8 players or so who all came from Japan for this series, and like with the same like cameraman.
Yeah.
To like kind of capture them all.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And he got a nice deep run out of it. So I hear he had a great story. He came in as one of the shortest stacks and was just kind of like nursing a short stack all day long. So way to go. Fifth place was Catherine Brandt. So way to go, Catherine Brandt. She had a pretty good showing at, oh shoot, I looked it up. I forgot something not too long ago.
I think she had a run in the main or something.
Or maybe the ladies event this year or something. It's not showing up when I clicked on the Poker News event. But she had another great event this year, so she's having one great year. Sixth place, Michael Nia. Everybody loves Mike Nia. I was surprised. I guess they must not have let him bring it. He didn't bring his little puppy Coco today, but Mike Nia got final table, sixth place. Way to go. Seventh place, Martin Canero. He just seems to just show up for our quantums and our 1Ks to also steal our money. Just at least Brian has the niceness to move in and hang out. 8th place, Alex Farahi. And 9th place, Yan Yan. So congratulations. I probably said that terrible. Yan Yan. We actually had 2 women at the final table. So way to go to
Nice.
those 2.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, congrats everyone.
Congratulations. I just want to see, was there anything else I needed to point out? Yep. Let's move on. So, Brian, I have so many questions for you. First off, I saw somewhere in my quick Googling of you that are you from Ithaca, New York originally?
Not originally, no. That is where I went to college.
Okay, so you
Yeah, I
went
went
to
to Cornell.
Cornell.
So
Yep, I thought
yes.
that's familiar. So I'm from Rochester, New York. I have a couple
Oh,
friends. The top 2 in my class went to Cornell. A friend of mine from college went to Cornell for grad school. So actually, grad school might have been around when you were there, but he was not econ. So I was wondering if you were from New York. Okay, so are you originally from Pennsylvania?
originally from Pennsylvania,
Originally
yeah.
from Pennsylvania.
Like Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area, so northeast Pennsylvania.
Northeast, gotcha. Yeah, I lived in Philly for about 7 or 8 years before I moved to LA. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
so I think we have a lot of kind of similar growing up in the Northeasty kind of stuff going on. However,
Yeah.
your start in poker was a hell of a lot different than mine. So why don't I'm curious. Could you kind of give Derek and I, because I've never heard your full story, and we don't need the full thing, but can you kind of tell us how did you get your start in poker? What got you? When did you go pro? And then maybe we'll get to it again later. But what made you move to LA?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, like many people of my generation, like kind of the first inspiration from poker came from, ESPN airing the 2003 World Series of Poker with Chris Moneymaker winning. So I was in high school at the time, and my friends and I started like, going over to each other's houses to watch that, as well as just playing like little like, $5 home games and such. And then when I got to junior year of high school, I had a math teacher who told me he was playing online poker and he was making more money doing that than teaching. I was like, oh,
No
that's
kidding.
fascinating. So it's started making like account. I think that first I like started just playing like free rolls online on the site called Bugsy's Club, and
Bugsy's Club.
then eventually like I just started feeling like a need for more. Well, I had a friend also who was like able to get a little bit of money on like use like his mom's credit card. So then I was working a part-time job at the time at Little Caesars, and I just like gave my friend some money to like transfer me money on an ultimate bet. So I made an account on there. I was like 16, and yeah, just started playing on there, and kind of broke even at first for a little bit, but like really early had like kind of the realization that I don't know what I'm doing yet, but like these people really don't know what they're doing, and like with like a little bit of effort and like learning the game, like I can definitely do well in these games. So started that process, and then by the time I graduated high school, I was had about $300,000 that I made.
Holy cow. How many
So it
hours a
was
week were you grinding while you were in high school?
quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, I was friends with like a lot of the jocks in my high school, but like I wasn't actually like athletic, so like I didn't like make most of the varsity teams, and they did. So like I would just go home from school and just kind of fire up online poker and play for a lot. So
That's
I
incredible.
mean, still was obviously able to maintain like I mean my high school wasn't very tough, so that was helpful. Like there was hardly any homework, and like
Yeah.
but yeah, I was able to maintain like good enough grades to get into Cornell. So,
Okay,
but
so you have
uh,
$300,000 in your online poker account, and you still go to
mhm.
Cornell. And
Yes.
then in Cornell, what was your mix of playing poker and studying?
I would say
School.
off the bat, it was probably a little bit too poker heavy. That it wasn't like the academic stuff wasn't working out so well. Like I think like freshman year, first semester, I was playing probably like 6 hours a night or something like that. I'd play till like 2 in the morning, and then try to show up for like my 9 a.m. class. And it was just a lot. I started out in engineering as well, and that was again.
Yeah.
I kind of realized after that one semester that I wasn't going to be able to do both things.
They put
So
all the prereqs
uh,
early in the morning, and they take attendance in engineering prereqs. Most of those schools
and
do.
just I mean, the material is just hard too.
Yeah,
Like
that's what
it's
it's yeah,
you really
yeah.
need to actually be like spending all your time like studying
Yep.
and learning that instead
Calculus.
of playing poker. So
So you switched to econ.
yeah, I did. And the econ classes themselves were actually like pretty hard, but that was more like take like one or two major classes a semester plus electives. So I was kind of able to finagle some like soft electives in there and stuff, and it was easier than just taking like four engineering classes. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, hold on. Jared Jolly, this is not just some random poker podcast, all right? This is the LA Poker Roundup, all right? This is not a random, this is not some random podcast. You come to LA, you got to go to us.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I moved here a little over a year ago, and like mean, I think I found your show probably, a few months into that, maybe. Like, I'm not even sure how I first found out about it, but
Um,
maybe on social media or something.
yeah, well, I remember the first time I met you in person, I think was at the circuit. I think we sat at that table, sitting at the same table. I'm like, that's Brian Hastings. And, we chatted a little bit. You said you just moved here. And I'm like, well, that's awful for us, but welcome to LA. But welcome to LA. So that was what? That was back in May. So, yeah. So,
Well,
oh, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
definitely listened to the show before that. And just
Awesome.
like, yeah, I knew you, but yeah,
Very cool.
hadn't done too much in the LA tournaments prior to that, I guess.
So, was there any point in time during college when you you had to know, or you had to have a thought that even as soon as you graduated high school that poker was your job, that was where you were going, or were you still thinking of doing other things?
Yeah, I think there was never a part where I thought I was gonna like get off that poker path, but I always just, I come from a family with like a lot of people in academia, like, professors and like college administrators and stuff. So it was just always, I don't know, I just kind of always grew up like, wanting to go to college and get a degree, and I didn't really, yeah, I don't know, I never saw, I still kind of wanted to see that through. And I really did like what I was doing in college too. Like I, enjoyed the stuff I was learning and the social experience and everything. So, yeah, I didn't really see a need to like not do it anymore. Um, but yeah, I mean, the whole time I still definitely had the expectation that like, oh yeah, after I graduate, I'm gonna be playing poker.
Awesome, man. I can't imagine that. I had the same, I had the same go to college, just do plod, do your thing, but um, never did it enter my mind to that there was some other side option like that. That's so cool that you just had so much success in the beginning. That's also kind of unique, I think, for a lot of people's stories. I think a lot of people have that like went broke story and then they hit something, and you just sounds like you were just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of dabbling, figured it out, and then just never looked back. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, in that specific era, like especially like, 04, 06, like whatever, like online cash was just like so beatable that like if you applied yourself and were smart, like you could like really just win a lot with like not that much variance. Like,
Yeah, yeah. My
And
prop. Good.
back in those days, it was all like 2 plus 2 and digging through poker tracker hand
Mhm.
histories. Like that was kind of the way that we learned. So how do you feel like poker has evolved like all the way to today since then?
I mean, a ton. Like obviously the big breakthrough was kind of this invention of the solvers, which
Yeah.
was about around 2015 or so. I think they started showing up. Yeah, I mean that's been the kind of major breakthrough in terms of like I really think like pre-solver and post-solver is not an exaggeration in terms of like this strategic advancement. But like yeah, like prior to that is it was really a lot of just like connect with like some other people who are good at poker and just kind of try to talk through things. And then now it's like, oh, we have these things that we can like look up solutions and kind of quantify things more. Granted, it's not that simple. It's you always have to apply it to whoever you're playing against as well. But yeah, I think that's kind of the major advancement. And even within that, there's just little iterations on that where they just keep getting better. And yeah, our understanding of just how to use them and in studying the game is better than ever as well. So.
And what do you think about, I guess, maybe this whole transition into solvers? Do you think maybe this is a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, I think there's definitely some good and some bad. Like, I mean, I certainly respect it. Like, I just like I enjoy games a lot. Like, certainly I've seen like like I like chess. Like, I've seen chess go a similar way with like
That's true.
the
Yeah.
engines. And yeah, to me, it's like yeah, it's something that's just kind of inevitable. Like, it was going to happen eventually. I mean, even when like training sites came out for poker, like that was a big invention, and people were mad about that. It was like training sites are killing the game, which like yeah, I mean, that definitely did make it harder, like for sure. Yeah, I mean, I got in that like pretty early too. Like I was making videos for card runners when I was still in high school. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, as far as good and bad, yeah, I mean, it definitely changes the game a lot. Like I think that it's more science and less art than it was, but like there's still room for both, certainly. But yeah, I think the kind of the how you allocate that has shifted.
Let me ask
Yeah,
you
there's
this.
there's 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 still those players like Jesse Lonis and I guess maybe even like Jeremy Becker and has kind of come up. A lot of
Mhm.
guys are just like not into solvers at all, and they're still showing some success. So I think there's always going to be room for a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Oh, agreed. And or even even players who do have like a solver-based foundation are still finding creative ways to
Yeah.
go against that. Just yeah, I mean, if you listen to an interview with Ike, like yeah, he's obviously has a bit strong theoretical foundation, but like also has times where he throws it out the window because it's like something else is better. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So, when you were coming up and learning the game, obviously that was pre-solver era. Do you ever wish, or if you could choose, coming up in the game and learning it the way you did, or coming up in the game kind of more like now when you have the solvers, which one do you think that would you have preferred, right? Do you think it would have been better? Would you think you would have learned faster, one more, if you had the solvers and everyone else had the solvers also? Or the way you did it, which, how did you study in the beginning? Was it just kind of intuitive, or did your friends were playing poker and getting good at as well, and you were bouncing off of them? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of complicated to answer, I would say, because like I'd say there's no easier time than now to like get really good at poker quickly. But like, however, like the tide in terms of like how good everybody else is like the bar is so much higher than it was. So
That's true.
like, yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of like raw like how to get good at the game versus like someone who doesn't know how to play at all. Like certainly easier to get better quicker now. But like in terms of better relative to the competition at like decent stakes, like I would say certainly easier then. So yeah, it just
True.
depends how you frame the question, I guess.
yeah.
Sorry, what was the other part of the question?
No, the other one, it was just how. So since you didn't have solvers, what did you use in the early days to
Oh
kind of
yes,
leapfrog and get good?
yeah. I mean, I think like Derek alluded to, like there were forums like 2+2. I remember in my really early days, I was on one Flop Turn River.
Hmm.
That was like kind of,
Oh
and then
yeah.
I eventually found 2+2 like Pocket Fives. Even back then, it was like a decent amount of
Yep.
strategy
Yep,
content.
I love
Yeah, I
Pocket
was like on
Fives.
all, I was on all those, and then you meet people from those or from playing, and just kind of like start talking privately too, and like so yeah, it really was a lot of just like talking hands and kind of trying to trying to get through them that way. I mean, it's not like there was no like math involved. Like there was still stuff like pot odds calculations or like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
determining like what equity you need to call and like trying to figure out ranges. And there were some kind of more basic like range calculation tools even like for like
Mm-hmm.
just pre-flop jams only basically.
Right, right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing like exists now. But yeah.
Gotcha. Yep. So we have a couple questions in the chat we can hit on before they scroll off my screen here. We have our number one field reporter, Frank. He is talking about how impressive it is that all of your 6 bracelets are all in different kind of games, right? They're different variants, and he wants to know which one was the most challenging or satisfying to you.
Yeah, that's a good question. They're all very different. Just off the top of my head, like the 10 game one was really fun. It was just like a 1500 because it was like the heads up was something that was like out of my element, but like I had like a pretty good like live read on the opponent where like I could kind of like read him pretty well as stronger weak when you like whenever you like looked at his cards and like that was
Oh
so
wow.
that's like my background is like so much different than that. It's like more just like online theoretical and
Uh-huh.
like so like that was cool to be able to like kind of realize an edge that way heads up and win. The
You don't
10K
even need
stud
to know all
was
10 games if you have that read, right?
I mean, kind of, yeah. But the 10K instead was fun in a different way. I just remember I had like over half the chips like five-handed, so I just kind of like do this ridiculous like I see him final table bullying playing stud, which is like really silly, but yeah, yeah. I mean, they all stand out in their own ways, but I'll say those.
Awesome. And then Jared Jolly, I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but he's asking you, how would you rate Isildur at the time when you were playing him and you had that huge win against him? On a scale of 1 to 10, he's asking, like, did you think he was?
Sure.
How would you have described him to your friends? How good is he?
I remember my opinion at the time was I thought he was really, really good at heads up no limit, but he was kind of just starting to branch out to heads up PLO more, and I thought I was a lot more experienced than him at that format. And then, I mean, the other X factor there was just that like once he, I thought his A game was still like pretty good, but like he was, really susceptible to like tilting and like getting off his A game.
Mm.
So um, yeah, certainly he's really talented. He's still around. He's doing well. I mean, I played with him at the series actually this year once.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, he was at my
yeah,
table too. And he's a tough player, man.
yeah. He played this wild hand in the 10K6 max too, where he on the stone bubble he had like a big stack and he like five bet jam Jack 7 offsuit for like 80 big blinds and then like cracked aces to like bust the bubble.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
um, but yeah,
Isildur.
no, but yeah, basically that. I mean, he's a really talented player, but yeah, at the time I just thought he was like newer to PLO. I'd been playing a ton of heads up PLO at that point, like and doing well against a variety of opponents. So yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right. So, you played in pretty much every arena there is. You played high stakes online, you played World Series, you played, all the big tournaments, you played cash all over the place. Now you're back here in LA. What do you think? What do you think of the LA scene? What do you think of the LA cash scene? What do you think of the LA tournament scene? How are you enjoying your LA poker life so far?
I mean, overall, I like it. Yeah, I really like that. I know I told you I was playing the 510 at the Commerce today. Like, I like that game just because it runs all the time. It's like just so like one thing I like about tournaments over cash generally is it's like predictable in terms of like knowing when to show up and play. And
Sure.
one thing I generally dislike about live cash is a lot of games. You show up and you might have to get on the list and you might have to wait for an hour or two, and like you just don't know. But yeah, the good thing with that game is like you can just kind of show up and there's usually a few tables running and usually takes like not that long to get in them. So that's nice. Yeah, I haven't played like too much other cash there. I did play the Gardens Bounty game one time. That was a good time.
Yeah,
Um,
that is a
yeah,
wild.
Martin was talking about that game at the table actually at the final table. Yeah, I guess he plays it some.
Gotcha.
But
Yep,
That's
wild,
cool.
wild game.
yeah, I haven't played a whole lot of mixed cash here. I played like one mixed game once in terms of cash. I know some other stuff runs occasionally, but yeah, again, it's more that kind of thing where like it's just so irregular that like you know
Well,
it's hard for me to get
would you like to
into
try and
that.
get a particular kind of cash game going or a cash game day? We can put the word, you can put the call out right now. We'll put the shout out. You can call out all the LA mixed game players and say, let's get together. Call me up. Like I said, there's a lower stakes mixed game that travels around. I think. Is there anything you want to try and get started here? Maybe you could be the anchor.
It's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it could be fun to just dabble in some kind of mixed game once in a while. Like if it was, yeah, like set up and I mean, my schedule tends to be mostly like daytime is good because yeah, then my family gets home and yeah, like so daytime's ideal for me. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
mean, it could be fun. As far as the tournament scene, like I mean, yeah, there's definitely some good stuff to play here. A little sad, I'm gonna miss the Gardens tournament this week because I'm on dad duty this weekend. But
Yeah,
um,
I shed a tear when you told me that. I was so sad. But you got to do what you got to do. So we'll miss you,
Yeah.
Brian, but
I actually
we'll
think I'm gonna miss
remember
it
you.
too. I actually think I'm gonna miss it too. So it's
thank you
unfortunate
for
that I'm
thinking
gonna
of me,
miss it.
guys.
You're gonna
I'm
miss
Oh,
gonna
it
miss.
too?
uh,
Oh man, I'm gonna
Yeah,
jump
I'm
way
gonna
ahead
miss
in
it
the
when
player
Brian's gonna
points.
miss it. It sucks. Yeah.
really sorry, Ty. Really sorry. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I've enjoyed playing at various venues. I mean, as I think we've talked about a little bit, like, the quantum is not really my favorite structure personally,
Yeah, we're
but
not a
I mean,
huge fan either.
yeah, I'm aware of that as well. But
Yep.
it's nice to have a few different venues locally. They're all running series here and there, and there's some stuff to play.
So, are you gonna be like, you gonna be kind of like Bill Klein, and we're gonna see you out in the streets whenever you're free, or are you gonna try and stick mainly to like the 1Ks and up?
Probably mainly to the 1Ks enough. I mean, I think yeah, it just kind of depends. Like, yeah, I mean, again, it's just like more of like a time, like, families thing. Like, yeah, if it wasn't for like family considerations, I'm sure I'd dabble in more of them. But yeah, I
Gotcha.
just kind of have to pick my battles more a little bit.
Gotcha. All right. Well, speaking of the 1Ks and up, you did just get second place. We would love to hear about your run, your experience. And I'm not to toot my own horn. I didn't do too shabby in that event. 18th is okay, very respectable. I'm gonna take it. So
Indeed.
yeah, why don't we hear about your run here? You bagged the chip lead in the very first day one flight of this event, which I kind of teased you about. It was barely over the average
Yeah,
stack,
no, it was,
but but it was the chip lead. It was chip lead, and interestingly
it
enough,
was.
it looked like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think three of the five starting flight chip leaders were at the final table, and I think the fourth one got 10th place, if I recall, because you and Paul, isn't
I
Paul
know
Lee,
Paul. Yeah, I
Mr. Lee?
know
Yep,
Paul was. Oh,
yep.
yeah.
And I think one other person there was one of their flight chip leaders. And I know that the guy who busted in 10th, he was the chip leader from my flight, I believe. So that's
Yan Yan was in the top three. Maybe she might have been third. I don't remember. Yeah.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting little thing. So how did your day one go?
Day one was, I'd say, pretty smooth overall. Yeah, I'm trying to remember some of the interesting spots from there. Yeah, I mean, I know I didn't. It's funny, like, 'cause, yeah, I bagged the chip lead, but I do remember at the at the final table of the first flight anyway, it was only three bags. So, and I was one of the lower stacks actually. Like I think with maybe like six or seven left, I was
Hmm.
probably like bottom three. So yeah, and then I was fourth out of four. Um, Won some kind of smallish hand just to like not be in fourth and like barely have over third, and then I just had this huge cooler hand at the end where I limp called blind versus blind with ace six suited, and the flop came ace six, and I just check raised small, and he ripped it in with ace jack. So
Oh my gosh.
it was
Wow. Nice.
yeah, and yeah, and like I like covered him by like a big blind or two. So that was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
So yeah, that was fun end to it. Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head like any other like super notable hands from that from day one anyway. I mean, again,
Gotcha.
I played this was a week ago now.
Yep,
It's
yep,
last
that's
Tuesday.
true. Yeah, the very first one. Thank you, Frank. It's Yang Yang. Okay, so Yang Yang. Um, you know, I've kind of commented every time we look at these schedules, we kind of point out like, and Derek and I shake our heads like, why are you running, 6 flights and you're running a Monday flight and a Tuesday flight for your tournament like this? How do you feel about that? Do you feel like this flight was, are you a fan of these things stretching out a week, an entire week long for like one of these 1Ks? What do you think? Because I know the one you played was so small, right? Like, is that
It was
something you
yeah, it
don't
was very
mind? Is
small.
that something
It
that's
was
kind of like,
yeah, I didn't personally mind because like the first flight was Tuesday and it like just happened to be a convenient day for me to play because Wednesdays I've been doing commentary for like the Live at the Commerce
oh
game,
yeah.
so I wasn't for Wednesday and
Let's
yeah, I
come
mean I
back
would
to
have
that and talk about Live at Commerce when we're done with the tournament.
sure
Sure.
yeah I would have probably tried it like one or two of the other later flights, but I mean for me personally I like having the option of just playing that like small early flight, but like yeah in terms of like structuring the series maybe it's not the best. I don't know. I mean yeah like certainly always the last like flight. Always the last flight gets way the most, and
Yeah,
like
of
the second
course.
to last flight gets like way the second most.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not the best equipped to answer this, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it
It,
seems
it
like it's
just
quite
feels
possible that they could just throw some 1 days in on like Tuesday or Wednesday and do better, maybe.
Yeah, there's definitely it feels like a diminishing returns in like the reverse direction when it comes to adding days, right? Instead of like tailing off, it's like it whatever the opposite of tailing off is, right? It's very weird. So yeah, let's before we jump to day two, I just want to quick mention my day one. My day one was pretty fun. I played on Friday. It was we had um, 11 people make it through, so we had like 114 people come in. It's pretty standard. I want to say it was relatively smooth. Not I had a couple interesting things, but for the most part, it was just the reg. The one thing I do want to kind of bring up is when we broke to the final two tables, in order to, when we were at the final two tables for bagging, this was my table break. So for those, I got the video playing here. For those who didn't see the story, yep, it's crazy. So I loved it and I hated it because this table, there's one person not being shown, and he's the only person that wasn't like a what we would kind of consider a super reg. This table was just this was all of the usual suspects. So it was hilarious, but at the same time, looking at the other table, it was like two regs and then a bunch of people I didn't recognize as much, right? So it was just really funny the way the tables broke down, and fortunate because we couldn't all make it. So I ended up bagging a decent stack. I didn't bag the chip lead, but I came in about 60K higher than you. Just get I needed the head start. So then we came in day two, 11 a.m. start. And I think, did you ever talk to him about it? I know you played with him for a minute. I saw Ryan Tosick come in about 45 minutes late to day two. Did he think it started
Um,
at noon? Do you know?
I didn't talk to him about it, but yeah, there were a few players who I noticed came in
Yeah.
like closer to noon, and actually, honestly, like 24 hours before the restart, I in my head I thought it was noon actually.
Oh, yeah, because you bagged
Luckily for
so
me,
early, you wouldn't even think about it or
luckily
be
for me,
looking.
like being a grizzled vet and like having like screwed this up before, probably at some point in the past, I rechecked the structure sheet and was like, oh, so I knew when I went to bed on Saturday, but yeah, I mean, it's not shocking to me that like some people didn't. Like,
Yeah.
I certainly don't remember after my flight back like hearing anything about it either way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I'm super careful about that. Like as a PSA to everyone, not only do I check the structure sheet, but then I go to the Twitter account, to the TD's account to see if they like change something. So I'm always like double checking because
that's a
I'm
good
so
idea,
paranoid.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the TD of Commerce, you say, huh? Well, you go to that account.
Well, when they have one.
Yeah, what they had when DJ always put it up. So yeah, and I also thought it was weird structure-wise, just that all the day one started at noon. Sure, fine, but the Saturday day one also started at noon. I would have pulled that back because that didn't bag. These flights weren't bagging until 1:30, and then make everyone come back at 11 a.m. the next day. Like, just start that flight at 11 at least. Give them a little bit more time. But
Yeah, that's
yes.
a good point, especially since it's Saturday and like
Mm-hmm.
it's Saturday and the people aren't at work generally.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly. But yeah, so then we started day two. You and I started day two roughly with even stacks. I had the good fortune of not being at your table. You were near the back. My table was I had Peter Cross two to my right, and then for the rest of the table, he was definitely by far the only one I was really worried about. And
Hmm.
if you saw the coverage, he took a brutal beat about 2.5 levels into the day. So I had a really great table until your table broke. So why don't we hear about your day until your table broke?
Yes. So yeah, really notably, I had a very interesting hand right off the bat. It was a three-way hand. So Martin Carnero was on my right, and I didn't like I recognized him when he sat down, but I wasn't like super like didn't know exactly who it
Well, it's
was.
because he
And
shaved his mustache.
okay,
Well, I've
but
seen him the last year here. His defining characteristic was this really
Oh, yeah,
elegant big
his
mustache.
villain,
oh,
Yeah,
villain
interesting.
mustache.
yep,
Okay,
yeah.
well,
The
yeah,
last year here in
definitely
LA, that's all I've seen.
for Sunday. But yeah. So anyway, I okay. This hand, Martin's a small blind. I'm the big blind, and I believe his name is Jerry. Remember the guy with the Dodger cap? You said he's a reg.
Well, you were
I didn't
playing at the
know.
table with Jesse, right? Jesse's in the chat
Jesse.
right now, right? Yep.
Sorry. Yeah.
Jesse,
Yes.
I
Yes.
think you
Yes.
were in this hand. Jesse's in the
Okay. So
chat
yeah,
right now,
Jesse.
right there. Jesus Delgadillo.
Nice. Okay. So yes, yeah, I see him talking about the table actually. Okay, so yeah, Jesse raised, and Martin flatted in the small blind off like 90 big blinds. Jesse had maybe I don't know 60 or something, I think. Um, and I defended in the big blind with Queen Eight of clubs. Let me just see if I have Jesse's stack here. No, Jesse had more actually. It says my notes say he has about 85 big blinds, so I was the shortest with 65. Anyway, so I have Queen Eight of clubs. The flop comes Queen Jack eight with Queen Eight of spades and no club. Checks to Jesse. He's continuation bets close to half pot, and then Martin makes a big check raise.
Oh,
And then it's on me.
oh.
Thought this was a really interesting spot. I actually ended up folding.
Yeah, I actually was gonna say I might fold there. Yeah,
Yeah, just kind of the logic is both like I don't think he has like a worse value hand here.
right.
I'd played enough with Martin at that point to like, yeah, think he's not the type who's just going to be like have like ace queen really there. Um, and then he could have bluffs, but they're mostly like combo draws that have a lot of outs and a lot of equity. And when I'm behind, I'm just cooked. So and then the other thing is just like if I fold, I just have 60 some big blinds and a field that I feel great playing it. So why take like such a thin spot like that? So
Yeah,
yeah,
your flight is the one that put us at that great blind structure, right? We actually started the
yes, it
day at
did.
3,000, 5,000 with an average stack of 80 big blinds. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that
Fantastic.
was the other note. Yeah, day one we bagged at like 10:30 p.m. It was so funny.
Yeah. Yep, the only ones.
Yeah, it's
But
so interesting. Like, I even think like 5 years ago, if that something like that happened to me, I'm like, I am all in with with two pair, right? But I just think I should kind of get a little bit more
yeah, I mean,
wise and use that.
I was definitely between just cold call and fold, but
Yeah.
yeah, ultimately went with fold, and I think I feel pretty good about it in hindsight. I mean, obviously since the way the tournament went, but
Yeah, and we talked about this before. You were kind of far back in the tables. It was going to break once people started busting, right? I think were you the second table to break, I think? Or were you the third
I
table
think
to break? Third
yeah,
table, I think.
it's yeah either second or third. I don't remember
Yeah,
exactly.
you
Definitely
were
not first, but
yeah. So, your table was kind of rough, as Jesse was saying. You had Paul Lee and Martin at your table.
mhm.
So there was a chance you're going to get to be at a different table, and there was still 40 other people there who had less than 1 million in earnings in their Hendon, right? Who are going to be a little bit, hopefully, easier to play against than Martin on your left now. Now,
Yeah.
some other interesting hands at that table.
Uh, yeah, so there's one more that I must mention. Yeah, so Martin was on my right, and so then the other hand I played against him. I raised under the gun with pocket eights, and Martin defends. Flop comes queen eight six rainbow, pretty good one. He checks. I bet small. He check raises, pretty sizable again. I just call. Turn ace complete rainbow, so queen eight six ace. He bets close to pot, setting up like close to pot on the river. I just call again. I think pretty clear, but I mean, perhaps I mean, but I do think it's worth pointing out because I think some people would like instinctually like jam a turn there, and I think that's a mistake personally. But
Yes.
something people would do. And then yeah, river was just a brick three. He jammed. I call. He has jack 10 for his straight draw bluff. So
why
Yeah.
didn't you knock
but
him
yeah,
out
that
though?
was really good. 1.1 million chip pot when
Yeah,
at
it's
like 4-8.
unbelievable.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's nice to have a set there because usually when the ace hits and they keep barreling, it's just like, man, that is my card and you're barreling. Like, what should I do,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
it is interesting. Yeah, right. It's interesting, like from his perspective, just like how to proceed on the turn with like because there's so many different straight draws he could have, and like he's just doing that with all of them. He's going to be wildly over bluffing like that card. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And I think that's about around when the break happened, and I had been having a really good morning, and we started kind of teasing each other about our stacks because we're pretty similar. I think that put you a little over a million, said right, like 1.1, and
yeah,
I was having a good morning too. I was kind of bouncing between a million and 1.3, so we were having a little fun shouting from table to table. It was mostly me shouting because it's always me shouting, but I got more. Wait, all right, hold on, and then 2 minutes later, all right, I got more again. Like, what do you got? And I had a fun table that kind of this was probably at the time it felt super lucky, but this may have been one of the most unlucky hands of the tournament for me, which is funny. So listen to this, Derek. I have two. I have two hands. One where it's actually Brian's hand, but I kind of want to tell the ending of it. But for this story, Taxi's to my left. I forget who. Someone else to my left. They both are very short. They've got about I think Taxi had 8 or 9 big blinds, and the other guy had about 12 or 13. Everyone folds to me on the button. I have aces. I open. Taxi jams it in. Big blind jams it in.
Nice.
Can't call fast enough. Thank you for the chips. 2 seats open. My table was doing all the knocking out. I think of the first 20 people, we probably knocked half of them out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we have 2 seats open to my left. Awesome. We got 3 open. Hey, we're 1 away from breaking a table. All right. Break the table. Guess who comes over? Straight to my left. Mr. Brian Hastings. Straight to his left, Mr. Martin Canero. I'm like, come on. Of all the people that could come to my direct left, I get these 2 guys. And Brian comes over with my stack. I've got like 1.3. He's got like 1.2 or something. And Martin's over here with a dangerous stack where if I raise too much, he's just going to jam on me. Like, come on. So I wish Taxi had stuck around. I wish he hadn't jammed on me and just the big blind had jammed on me.
Yeah, the table draws, man, like it's actually really important, especially deep in a tournament, man. Just like like it's just a luck of the draw, and you
Yeah.
just get the wrong one, and it makes your day really
Oh
hard.
yeah, I got to mention one thing that came up at that table
Yep.
too. So there was a hand I played.
This is the second one. Yep, go for it.
Or you can tell it if you want.
No,
You're
I just
talking about
wanted
the
to.
one
I
with
just
Martin?
want to set up the ending. So that was probably one of my least lucky hands of the day because after that hand and they came over, I don't think I got to win another hand for
Oh my gosh.
50 minutes until we broke because I knew we were breaking next and I just didn't get anything. I had one hand where it was like I have middle pair and that was it. Like I had nothing. So for the next 50 minutes, I didn't get to win a hand because of that. All right. So then we're knocking players out again. People are getting knocked out again. And Brian starts playing a hand. And yeah, why don't you tell the hand and I'll narrate the side stuff that's going on. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
So
Okay. So yeah, this hand I'm the big blind with about 1.1 million at 15K big blind. Martin is under the gun with about 750K, and the cutoff is in the hand as well. It's a player I don't know with a little over 300K. Martin raises under the gun to 30K. Cutoff calls. I defend the big blind with King 7 of spades. Flop comes 10-9-5 with 10-9 of clubs and 5 of spades. Checks around. Turn is the Jack of spades. Spicy one for me. I check. Martin checks, and the cutoff bet's 50K.
and at this point, the floor comes behind Martin
Yes.
and hands him a rack. 2 people had just been knocked out at the table next to him. I think Mike Nia just had his hand where he double knocked people out, and they hand him a rack and say, "Yeah, you're the big blind next? Okay, here, rack up." Okay, so he starts to rack up, but they tell him, "Don't get up yet.
But
Don't
he's-
get up yet.
but he's
Finish the
still-
hand."
Is he still in the hand?
So
he
had
folds.
folded. No,
Sorry.
no, this
Yep.
is like I check raise.
Yeah.
He folds.
He folds
Like,
and
at
then
this point, they come over and the other guy's tanking.
Yep.
I'm oblivious to what's going on with
Yep.
Martin, by the way.
So I'm watching. I'm watching. As soon as
in the
Martin
future,
folds,
I
they
will
hand
not
him the
be.
rack. Okay, so Martin's now has a rack. He
Um,
starts to put his chips in the rack. Other guy's tanking. All right, carry on.
So my opponent ends up just calling, and remember he started the hand with like I have 330 in my notes.
Yep.
So say he has like 100K behind on the river. There's
Yep, roughly.
500K in the pot,
Yeah.
and the river's a spade, so I just make this flush. And but like here's where I went wrong. Like
Yep.
since I wasn't paying attention, I should have left this guy one big blind so Martin
Yeah.
got moved.
So
However, instead I jammed, he called, and I stacked him, and then
Yep.
Martin got stayed.
and then he stayed for another half hour. Freaking A. So this was probably the biggest mistake of Brian's day, is that his
Yeah, for
sizing
sure.
problem right here. This is the
You
biggest
know
one
what?
for
I don't
sure.
think even if I knew that was going on, I just don't think in the moment I would even think to do that. But
Can
that's interesting.
this is when you know you're in
Well,
the zone. If you had seen that play,
I
man.
mean, honestly, another thing is like I'm just not familiar. Like most venues, like won't make it that obvious that they're like
Yeah,
moving someone while the hand's still
Uh,
going on. Like
yeah,
usually, maybe like a floor man will be like lurking on the side or something, but like they
yeah.
won't just be like giving him racks while the hand's
yeah.
still playing out.
But
So I'm just
Martin
not used to like
literally,
this being a thing to like think about
he
even.
had his chips
But
in the
yeah.
rack. He had to take his chips back out of the rack. And I was like so upset. I'm like, why didn't you leave -1? You should have left him one chip. You just cost us so much money.
That's so
Yeah,
funny.
no, if I was paying attention, I definitely would have just left like one big blind behind for him. Like,
Yep.
but no.
Because then he goes, and then yep, because we were full. We were full table. It would have been like send Martin over with Mike Nia and let them battle it out, and then I still have Brian on my left, but at least it's just him instead of
Yeah.
everybody. But anyways, it was just funny. It's just funny. Like that's 4D chess right there, man. When you see that, when you know when you're playing such to into the table break or into the big blind move, like man,
It's just something I have to add to repertoire. Is like trying to keep people at
yep,
the table with my bet sizing. It's so funny.
absolutely. And yeah, thanks, Sammy, for the reminder. Guys, if you're enjoying this, smash the like button. If you're not subscribed already, hit that subscribe. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. All right. So then eventually our table breaks. I get stuck with Martin. You go off with I think you got stuck with Ryan Tosick and I think Paul again. So I didn't see you again for the rest of the tournament, basically. So my story's basically over. I go card dead at this point, end up jamming Ace Jack suited under the gun into Ace King. Of course, Martin has Ace King. He just killed me that day. It was just like the cards just didn't fall right. Um, so that was me in 18th. So let's see if there's anything else interesting going on until the master negotiation story.
Nothing else like I'm looking, and nothing else like super interesting leading up to the final table. Like if I had to pick one hand, it was one I played. It says there were 19 left here. So yeah, the guy who busted right before you, I guess. Um, so I was in the small blind with 2.8 million. So clearly I'd won some chips, but I don't think it was. Oh yeah, I remember. I mean, I had aces against queens for like a big pot. I
Mm,
remember like won like 800,000 chips on that hand. So that was the biggest
Nice.
one. And then after that, I just had a bunch of chips at like a relatively good table and raised a lot of hands and stuff.
yep.
So okay, so 19 left. Yeah, 20, 40K. I have 2.8 million. Big blind. Guy I didn't really know, but was chatting with a bit. Said he lives near me and has a daughter as well. Um, but yeah, anyway, so he has about a little over 600K in the big blind, so a little over 15 big blinds. Folds to me in the small. I raise to 100K, 2.5 with 10-8 offsuit, 10 of spades, 8 of hearts. He calls. Flop comes 8-7-5 rainbow, and I just decided to go for a pretty big bet,
Mhm.
140K into 240, try to make it a two-street game. He calls, and then the turn is an ace of hearts, and yeah, I just jam for two-thirds pot. I mean, I don't really expect him to have a whole lot of ace X. Like, I think he jams pre-flop a lot, all that. So whatever, there's two-thirds pot left. My hand's just good enough. And eventually, remember he got the clock called on him by someone else after tanking for a while and called with king six.
Hmm.
Uh, so tough spot for him, honestly. But yeah, that
Wow.
was so that was two good minus to two tables to
Okay.
retire met his demise.
Yeah, but I appreciate that. You didn't get Martin off our table, but you did. That is the hand that got me my buy-in for this weekend. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yep. By him not hitting that gets me my. I think the pay jump was almost exactly the buy-in for this weekend. So I'll take it. Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
All right.
interesting too because I almost just feel like I don't take that spot enough. Probably when the ace comes, even when I'm just like, you know what, they don't have a lot of aces in their range, and a lot of times I just feel like I'm not taking that spot enough. But interesting that you did take it there.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think it'd be tougher to follow through if there was like say 1.5 pot left or something. But
Yeah.
like with
Yeah,
with literally like just two-thirds pot,
that's
like
true. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I just felt like whatever. My hands are definitely worth this much at this point, so why not?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
and also my image was really loose at that point too. Like I'd just been in a lot of pots and
Gotcha.
betting and winning a lot of pots, so I
It,
thought
it
I could
must
get
have
called by worse
it,
to
mu- it must have been pretty loose for him to be calling with king six with all the ICM pressure there. So you must have been.
yeah.
He may just
Yeah, I
not have
mean,
felt
certainly.
much ICM pressure. Some people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, he thought about it for quite a while. I mean, yeah, it was probably like a 2 to 3 minute tank before the clock got called on him. So,
Wow.
All right. So and then so right at the end of the tournament here, did you guys play much three-handed, or did you more or less just as soon as it got three-handed, you kind of looked at each other and were like, "Is let's look at numbers," or? Yep.
But
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
six-handed though. So yeah, so um, my opponent in this hand was
Oh,
Catherine Brandt.
hold on a second. Wait, can you pause 1 second? Stone, you
Yeah.
say you can't hear Brian? Is anyone else in the chat? Can you just tell me real quick? Okay, now we can. All right.
It's weird.
Okay. Sorry
Okay,
about
sorry.
that.
Go ahead. I don't know what happened. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, so my opponent in this hand was Catherine Brandt, who yeah I thought played pretty tough, honestly. Like yeah, she definitely was not going to be run over, and yeah, did some tricky stuff. So okay, so six-handed. I was down to about 14 big blinds for this hand. She had about 25 big blinds in the small blind, and other stacks are about 50, 40, 18, and 30 roughly. So I am the shortest, but not by much. I remember it was Mike Nia who had like just a little bit more than me. Um, and so it folds to her in the small blind, and she jams on my big blind, and I have King 10 suited, I think, and thought this was really close. I tanked this for quite a while and eventually folded, but that one I
Mhm.
don't know about in hindsight. I mean, it might not be a good fold, but
What did you think? Do you think she was jamming wider or tighter than than GTO?
I mean, I think in general, I think the population jams like way too tight here, and I think she's probably somewhere in between that and
Yeah,
what she
she's
should
not
be
too shabby.
jamming.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Derek
that's
says
fair.
good
So
fold.
yeah, I think
Um,
she's like less tight than most of the field there, but still like tighter than she should be, if that makes sense.
I kind of feel like
Um,
King Jack. So you had 14 bigs.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot. I feel like King Jack is
and
Well,
probably
he had King
borderline.
10, right?
I know. I
Oh,
think
okay.
King Jack might be borderline, and King 10 feels like a fold then, probably.
yes. When I ran it just straight up in HRC, it was actually King 7 suited is like getting it in.
Wow.
But
Oh, no
For
kidding.
14.
Wow.
Oh, is it
yeah,
because
but
you're the
again,
shortest, or?
yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. And also the next page jump was like really small compared to the remaining ones.
Mm,
Mm,
So that was a factor too. I noticed that with the final table payout structure, like the first two page jumps were all kind of small, and then once it got to like fifth place, the rest of them were like
mm,
much bigger after that.
gotcha.
So
I'm
I think
really
that's
shocked
a
that
big part of it as well.
King 7 calls out 14 bigs there. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean the jamming range is pretty wild though. It's like you got like 9-6 stuff in
Oh,
there. So
I
yeah, I
see.
mean something you're not going to see in practice really, like unless it's against someone who knows that stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I feel like Catherine, just from what I know of her, she's probably not at the midpoint of, optimal versus like maybe like a tight player. She's probably a little bit more like on the 70-ish% range of like on the aggro side. So maybe
hmm
not like a 9-6 type of hand, but she's definitely a little bit more there. So
yeah, I
yeah, it'll
agree. I
be
think she's going to be probably closer to the chart than like most people would
yes.
be. But still, I don't know if it's enough that I should call my hand. Especially
Right.
again, like obviously, I think I perceive a skill edge going forward too, even if I only
Sure.
have 13 big blinds. So
Right,
Sure.
right.
yeah, that's part of what I'm factoring in as well. So
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, that
but
remind
thought it was close and interesting.
that
yeah, super interesting hand.
Yeah.
not as strategically interesting. That reminds me of one of the early knockouts that I did at my table. The guy in my big blind at the time had like only four bigs, so I just jammed dark on him. Poor guy. Poor guy. We got there.
What did you end up having?
I had Jack 3 offsuit.
Uh,
He thought about it for a minute. I think he actually called with King 10, but I ripped off the 4 card straight. It's all good.
yeah,
What are you gonna do? You have 4 big blinds.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're supposed to fold much there. Like,
Yeah.
and probably given that people are probably overfolding a little bit, you probably actually should just jam any two. But,
Yeah.
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 pretend to look at your cards though, of course.
Yeah, I didn't do that, but I don't think he saw that, so he acted like I saw them. I,
No, you got to
this
give it a
is
really good
yeah,
peek and then show.
yeah. No, I had a lot of chips. I didn't mind if he didn't know. I'd prefer him just to call with even wider than he would normally, just to get it over with. But no, I do stuff like that
Um,
all the time. I'm kind of known for throwing chips away when I have too many of them in the dark. I do the early round tournament straddle around here.
She
Yeah,
does.
it's a
Yeah,
fun
she
one.
does.
Yeah. Yep. So
seems about right.
yep.
I do have one more strategically interesting hand from the final table if you
Okay.
want to hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so five left now. I'm up to, so it's 150K big blind now, so it went up once. I'm up to 3.1 million, so roughly 20, a little over. Catherine is the big blind with 2.8 million, so I cover her by two big blinds. So I'm the hijack, so first act five-handed. I open to I'm in open with ace ten of spades. She defends, and yeah, she's definitely defending pretty wide here.
Yeah.
What I've seen. Um, Flop king queen nine rainbow with the nine of spades. I see bet small. She calls. Turn three of spades. She checks. I actually thought this was pretty interesting here because like I definitely don't want to get jammed on with my hand. It's like really sucks if I bet and get jammed on, but still. So I decided to actually like kind of size down the bet to like try to not get jammed on as much. But I went. So I went. It was I bet a 550 into 1.3 basically.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was like definitely a little bit smaller than I would usually like.
Do you think
it left about 2/3 pot left on the river?
how do you think that impacts like what what folds you would get though? Like, does it you think that has any kind of negative impact in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I get fewer immediate folds than if I bet a little bit bigger. Like say I could probably just go like half pot here to go like geometric. But yeah, I think that probably gets more immediate folds. But like with my hand specifically, I just like kind of felt like I should really not get like minimize the chances of getting shoved on. So I
Sure.
make sure I realize.
Especially
So
against her because she's just not giving up even like 2/3 pot size. But if she just has like a piece of it, I feel like she's gonna continue a lot.
yeah, it
And yeah,
depends. I think if she has like just like a nine, like 9/8 or something, it's gonna be really hard for her to continue against much of any of it on the turn. But yeah, I mean, I think probably with like a queen flush, she's not going to be folding a whole lot. Um, or if she has like jack nine or something, she's not going to fold that either.
yeah.
But yeah, so so she called the turn bet, and then the river was a very spicy card, the queen of spades. So
Wow.
yeah, so I got there, and
Mhm.
also the middle card paired. So it's weird because like a lot of my like value hands on the turn like don't want to value bet the river
Right.
now.
Yeah.
So like weird spot in terms of range construction. Obviously for my hand it's a no-brainer jam, so I did. And she tanked for a pretty good while, and then just called with ace queen. So
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean
that's a
that's a
cooler card.
really weird tough spot as her, honestly, in the river.
Yeah.
Um,
Obviously
did
super
not have a
lucky for you.
spade.
Obviously. But yeah, that's
Yeah, I
definitely a tough
mean
spot, especially with you sizing
ridiculously
down.
lucky river card, yeah.
Yeah, especially sizing
But
like if you did the geometric and she didn't jam on you, then it's kind of easier for her to call
yeah, I
then,
think
right? So,
probably with ace queen specifically, I think she probably just calls the turn for
right.
like against whatever sizing.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's other hands like stuff like a weak king or something where I think she might call against my sizing but jam against the
Yep,
bigger sizing.
for
So
sure.
uh,
For
yeah,
sure. So what I'm hearing is the secret to winning these things is to just just go runner spades a lot,
yeah.
and just
Identify the best card in the deck, and
yeah,
then yeah,
just keep going runner spades on people, and just keep getting there, and that is how we do it the Hastings way.
It really is a super interesting turn spot because I feel
No, it
like
is.
most of the time when I don't want to get blown off my hand, I'm just going to check. I'm just going to check back, and I don't think about just
yeah.
putting in like a small bet. That's really interesting.
I had like a sort of similar spot actually on day one, like nearing like the day one bubble, where I like check back the turn with like an open-ended straight flush draw basically for the same reason. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I didn't get jammed on. But yeah, in this
Which
spot again, just part of it was that I just thought like I knew she was defending really wide pre-flop, so I just thought she had like a lot of hands that were just struggling to defend against the bet, and fewer hands that like are going to be jamming really. So
Yeah.
so
And it's interesting too because then you almost have to think a little bit about, well, what other things can I mix in here to protect my small turn bet range, right? But yeah, it's probably not something you're going to do that often anyway. But you know what is really interesting to me hearing you talk about your hands is that you have every detail down to all the players like chip stacks and who had which chip stack. How are you like documenting this? Like, are you like after the hand? Are you doing this on your phone or what is it?
yes, yeah, I just use the notes app on my iPhone, and yeah, just when there's a spot like that I think I'll want to like review later. Yeah, I'll
Oh
just
yeah,
take. Yeah, I mean, obviously it hurts my attention for the next like hand or two, but
right,
like
right, right.
I think it's worth it in a spot like that to just like be able to
yeah,
study it later. Yeah.
yeah. With
That's
that,
interesting because I kind of that's exactly why I don't do it because I feel like I just can't like type it fast enough and I sort of miss the next hand. But I think yeah, it's I get to go and review it like a day later and I just don't remember all the details. So this is
yeah.
Oh, my
it's
memory is terrible, so that like just wouldn't even
right.
be an option for me.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
like either like if I'm gonna do it, I have to do it then, and then yeah. I mean, I
Right.
try to be kind of selective about like how many hands I do it with. Like it really has to be one that I think I kind of want to look at hitting.
Gotcha.
So like to do it. Like there's some hands that like there might have been some interesting decisions, but like I feel pretty fine with it. And
Yeah.
we'll go
Yeah.
there.
It's
But yeah.
enlightening to hear you to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a hand against Martin I wanted to run by you, but some of the really important details I just didn't remember well enough, and I felt like it'd be not not helpful without them. Like for instance, I couldn't remember if it was single flush draw or double flush draw on the turn. Seems important. I couldn't remember if the river got the back door or the front draw, or if it was double, if it was the front door flush draw. It's like these are too important to not remember well enough. So
Yeah, I would be in the same boat as you if I didn't just write them down
Yeah.
immediately. Like if I waited even like
Yep.
until break or something, like I would
Right.
double
I
check
forget.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
With the hand you just went over though, what I'm really curious about is, so now that you've sized down, what kind of river cards are you going to continue on with the bluff with? And now that you did size down, is your bluffing size mainly still all in, or what do we do? What cards are we looking for to continue with even when we don't hit?
Well, yeah, first of all, yeah, definitely with a 2/3 pot left on the river, I think it's just going to be an all-in or a check spot. I don't see any other sizing being viable really on any card. I think with ace ten of spades specifically isn't like the best combo to be like bluffing
Right.
too many river cards with, but like yeah, certainly there's other hands in my range that I would like be finding bluffs on other on bricks or on gut shots completing and stuff like that. I mean, obviously if a jack hits, I get there also, but like if a 10 gets there, yeah, then it's tricky to figure out which hands to bluff, but like probably definitely something that has no pair is ideal there. Like sometimes you'll see those just unblocker hands, like if it was just like ace three with like no connection or something. But
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's kind of what I was thinking when you were talking about, I'm going to size down here, so I'm going to, if we aren't getting as many folds then, and then I have a bad hand to bluff on the river, I was curious what the strategy was for all those other cards, right? So that was what I was curious about, if it's worth it to, where's the point where it's not worth it to have it in there, or is it just worth it enough so that to protect when the flush comes, that you have it when you have that betting line? It's just
that's part of it, yeah. Like definitely want to like have your range protected on like various runouts. So like on various river cards, you can have it on all kinds of river cards.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah,
that's a big part of it. Yeah, right. Like with my hand specifically, like I probably wasn't going to bluff many rivers.
Gotcha. Just a lot of give
but
up
with
on that one.
again with other hands in my range, then yes, and yeah, it's 2/3 pot left on the river. So
cool.
Yeah, and it's also about it just assessing my opponent and just deciding how much do I think this person's gonna make a fold here, like with weak top pair or whatever. Like I don't know if one interesting hand that just came to mind with this was in the WSOP main event. It was Steven Song against Kristen Foxen, and she like 3-barrel bluffed with like a hand like I was just talking about. Like I think she just had like ace 3 off with like nothing, and Steven Song like had like a bad top pair and he like folded the river in a similar spot to like 3 barrels.
Yeah.
Like she bluffed all in on the river. So yeah, that was like kind of an example where like I mean he's supposed to like call his hand in theory, but he ended up just like leveling himself into a fold. Like thinking she's not bluffing here, but she was.
Right. Gotcha.
Right.
That was a pretty cool one.
Yeah,
and I remember seeing that hand, and I was
yeah, it was maybe like 40 or 50 left or something like that, maybe 30.
Yeah, I mean the monumentalness of the situation, but it is freaking Kristen Fox. I mean, I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, no, like I mean, I love Steven. I'm friendly with him, but like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing though. Like for all the people to think they can't find a bluff here,
it's her.
Foxens, like.
So it's kind of a good segue. The next question I wanted to ask was, it's kind of related in how do you feel about LA, but instead of just seeing, how are you feeling about the players? You've been here, you've been playing here at least since the last circuit. How would you say what kind of adjustments would you say you're starting to make against the pool here, right? So this is I think the first big one you've ripped off here in LA now. So maybe you're starting to get used to all the blasters around here. Maybe not, but like what kind of things do you think you see here that are maybe unique to our player pool, or just in general, how would you adjust from like playing World Series to playing LA, that kind of thing?
Well, I lived in South Florida for a long time, so I'm pretty used to playing with blasters.
I gotcha. Yeah. So you're saying we play a lot like South Florida guys, okay? South Florida.
There's some common threads, yeah. So yeah, I actually moved here last July. So yeah, I remember. I think last fall in one of the quantums. I think it was one of the quantums. I got like final two tables, and then one of my least favorite players in the LA player pool, Men the Master and
Oh,
Wen, put a dirty beat on me, and then I ended up getting like 13th or something. Um,
yeah, we're shocked he still gets to play everywhere, honestly, but whatever.
Same. Yeah, I asked this question to like Flores places. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's wild to me. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, overall, yeah, I've really enjoyed playing here. Like, yeah, the people are great. Like, I've met so many cool people playing poker here. Yeah, everybody has, different
Yeah,
story. I mean, yeah, certainly a lot of people in the boat of you guys were like, you have jobs, but also like you're very passionate about poker and like take it pretty seriously and like, are pretty good at poker. So, yeah, I think that's awesome. I've met like quite a few people in that boat, and um, yeah, just like a lot of cool. I mean, good friends with Matt Salzberg, who's going to go on
yep,
the live at the Commerce game tomorrow. So
yeah,
another example there. But yeah,
awesome, awesome. Oh yeah, and about Live at the Commerce. So you've been commentating there for a couple months, I think now. How do you like that? Did you know Wayne before you came out here, and
um,
is that something you see yourself doing for the foreseeable future?
I did not know Wayne before coming here. Actually, I've gotten to know him quite a bit though, and yeah, I'm a big fan of Wayne. Um, he has a lot of nice trophies, by the way, too, mostly from the
He
online and just
StarCraft,
global
right?
does.
poker.
Jeez,
But
Oh,
he
global.
cleans up the global poker ones. Jeez.
yeah, he has some wild pictures of him out there with like all these trophies by him. But um, no, like I first got acquainted. Yeah, I know Craig Tapscott, media guy,
Yep.
who's I've known for a long time, and yeah, like in the spring he had asked me if I'd wanted to commentate with him on a game sometime. So yeah, I agreed to do that. And at first I just did it like once in a while. But yeah, since WSOP, I've been more like making it like a once a week thing. And yeah, I think it's kind of fun and just like something different, something else to like. It's still poker, but like just different than what I'm doing most other days, and something to work at and improve at. Also friends with Nick Schulman, who's like the best at it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool that I get to
Get
like
some advice.
not that I've really done it recently, but when I want to, I can ask him a question about commentating, like what could we do better.
That's great. Yeah, you're
So
definitely raising the bar over there and raising the game. There's some. Derek and I actually got in there and did it once. We
Yeah.
commentated the
Yeah.
game one time,
I
but
saw that. Yeah,
yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. But I gotta say, I am super happy that someone like you is in the booth and doing some of like they had for a couple weeks. I hope they don't do it again. They had a couple weeks where they had Eden Rocks in there doing the commentary, and I gotta say, not my favorite. Not my favorite. Didn't watch much of that one, but glad to see you in
Actually, I
there.
think so. I'm doing it tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure my partner is going to be Peter tomorrow. So
Really,
that should be
Peter's.
Oh
fun.
Oh,
wow.
Peter does a
Yeah.
great job.
It's gonna be a
Mhm.
super strategy
Yep,
one.
I'll have to definitely tune into that one.
Yep. Looking forward to it. And like I said, Matt's playing, so that's going to be a good time.
Yep,
So,
yep.
yeah, I
Matt was
talked
playing
to
when
him
we
quite a
did
bit.
it. He was
So
super fun. Yep.
nice. He's always fun.
Yeah, then talking about,
Uh,
I guess your LA experience, now that you've,
mhm.
played enough tournaments across all the different like card rooms, what are some things that you think the card rooms can do to like, improve the overall player experience and, maybe even some things they could just generally improve about their operations?
I mean, I think if Commerce got a tournament director, that would be helpful for sure.
Yeah.
But overall, I think yeah, I mean, obviously that one, the chip thing on the other tournament was bad, but I think overall they're doing, things are on the up there. I would say, like since I moved here, even it seems like there's been a ramping up in terms of like what they're offering. Prize pools. I mean, the circuit is definitely a big win. It's like coming there and sticking around. So that's cool. Um, I mean, in general, it'd be nice to see the operators take more risks with the guarantees. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know how much appetite there is from the management level people to do that, but I mean, like I said, I come from South Florida, and like you guys are probably aware, like quite a few years back now, but like Hard Rock just put a 10 million guarantee on their
Right.
5K. They overlaid by like 2 million the first year, but like it led to like such a like sustainable increase in like the player pool that like
Yeah.
they've just more than made up for it since. Like
Wow.
so that initial investment is I think is like really like put their brand on the map and just like set them up as a destination where people just come and they have huge prize pools all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that I guess that's the thing that comes to mind most is it would be if they were willing to take more risks with the guarantees. I think there's as you guys know plenty of players here and also more people who would travel here to play these series if there
Right.
were just more risks taken and even just more like slightly bigger tournaments. Like I'm not saying but maybe throw in some 2Ks and 3Ks here and there maybe. Like I think they could get some decent fields for those if they if they invested in it properly.
Gotcha. No, for sure. No, we always are scratch our heads at some of the guarantees that get thrown out. This Hold'em
Yeah.
series is a great example. They're so
Yeah.
conservative with the guarantees, but nope, absolutely. I think those are great ideas. So the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about is you are kind of you already mentioned right at the very beginning that you were making videos for what was the site in the beginning
Card
for
runners.
card runners. So you've kind of been into the teaching space and into the knowledge sharing right from the get go, and you're a coach now for Run It Once, correct?
Yes, that's
Run
right.
It Once coach, and also you're associated with Octopi, which I don't. Let me get this straight. I don't think you don't work for them. You do coaching on their app, or are you an Octopi coach?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So Octopi has a coaching forum basically where it's just kind of a marketplace where like different coaches kind of list like have listings, and then
Hmm.
it's a way basically for students to like see who's offering coaching, what the rates are, and then just like get in touch if they're interested. So yeah, I mean I'm friends with the people running Octopi like Lucky Chewy, Andrew Lichtenberger, Victoria Lifshitz. Talk to them quite a bit. But yeah, I don't have any like full-time role or anything there. It's just yeah, I'm
Gotcha,
a, I'm a coach listed in the marketplace, and yeah, Octopi just kind of helps make those connections basically.
gotcha.
So
And is your coaching is it primarily is it any format, any kind of game, anything cash tournament, hold'em, mixed game, or is there a particular area that you tend to want to do your coaching in?
definitely willing to do anything. I'd say yeah, I mean it's something I've been more actively like ramping up in recently. And Yeah, I'd say it's been kind of a mix of mostly like no limit tournament coaching and mixed game coaching from what I've been doing recently. But certainly willing to do whatever. And I mean, I play a decent amount of cash as well, both live and online. So happy to do that as well. But yeah, I think yeah, I mean really whatever. I will say though, I mean, a lot of people know me as a PLO player, which because of the Isildur in my old times. I would say I'm very not equipped to be like a modern PLO coach. It's just not something I've focused on in recent years. So, yeah, I would say not like really not that. I mean, I'm sure I can help direct people to the right coaches for that, but like yeah, that's not me though right now.
That's how you know that Brian isn't pulling your chain here. Guy wins 4 million playing PLO. Says not qualified to be a PLO coach. Not comfortable
I mean, I
advertising
don't I don't
that.
own Poker Solver. Like,
Yeah,
I just wouldn't be
yeah.
honest to be like
That's
selling myself as a PLO coach. I don't
that is
know.
how you know that when he says he knows something, you should listen.
Yeah. And do you offer one-on-one, or do you do like group coachings?
So far I've been doing just one-on-ones. I'm definitely open to the idea of group coaching though. I mean, yeah, I haven't done it yet, but
Okay.
well, I mean, I guess the closest thing is like I've done a few like live seminars where like
Hmm.
did a mixed game series for Run It Once this spring, and then I did like a session with Victoria's Pocket Queens female group.
Yeah. No, we
Just
love
did a
them. I'm
a live seminar.
friends
So
with Rachel, who started that here in LA. So
nice.
that's awesome. Love to hear that. So my last two questions are one, what type of player would you say will get the most benefit from working with you? And if I'm that kind of player, how do I reach out and how do I inquire?
I would say probably like I'd say a lot of the people I work with are, already like somewhat experienced players, but kind of, a little bit unsure of like how to study properly and stuff like that. Like I'd say a lot of what value I can bring is like teaching people how to like use solvers well, stuff like that, and just yeah, just kind of directing them how to like efficiently study is a big part of it. Also, yeah, I mean, I've a lot of experience and knowledge just across all different formats of poker and different player pools and all that. Um, yeah, as far as getting in touch, I mean, social media is easy. Octopi works as well. Yeah, just really wherever you can find me. Yeah, my Twitter and Instagram are both Brian C. Hastings, so that's an easy way.
All right. Well, you heard him. You heard him, guys. You got another coach in town, another local coach here in LA, and not only that, he's gonna be able to give you help with the local player reads. So I mean, look out, Fausto. You got some competition now. Got some got some real high class competition in town. Um,
Yeah, I think we've been kind of talking a little bit about Brian's history, and he's sort of telling you how consistent he's been, making like 300K or whatever in high school, and then crushing, Isildur. If for people who didn't kind of know the history of poker back then, Isildur just kind of showed up one day and then just started playing the absolute nosebleeds of all the heads up against like Ivy, against Dwan. It was like insane. It was actually the most fun. Like I've never just sat and watched other people play, like to open a client, but I was doing that because I was like, this is just insane what's going on. And then Brian just jumped in there and then crushed a Silder. And then Brian, even before that, was known as an absolute crusher, like just in all formats of the game, 6 bracelets till now. And he's going to give you one-on-one coaching. So I think you guys should probably take him up on that because for people who don't know Brian Hastings, he really is a legend of the game.
Yeah, I was not joking, despite my tone of voice when I was introducing him earlier. He really is. He really is one of the greats here. All right.
You guys are too kind.
No, well, we just try and give the people the truth, man. So we are, we're getting close to the end of the show for this week. We do want to give Derek a little time to tell his story as well. Talk about that trophy I see in the background there, buddy. I know people have been saying you finally match me. You finally have one as well. I just want to point out, mine was a multi-day event, and I did not chop it. I did not chop it. We played to the very last hand. All right. But nice job, buddy. What about anything interesting happened on your way down? Any interesting hands? Any interesting setups?
You know what's interesting is that most of the tournament, I feel like nothing was kind of happening. Nothing like super good. Nothing was super bad. I was hovering around, whatever it was, like 20 to 30 BBs, all the way down to the final table where I ran really bad. And I was down to 5 bigs. And I was definitely the shortest stack there. I ended up doubling, and I actually posted a hand with a pole where I doubled up with, I ended up tanking after a kind of a older gentleman who did not play like he looked. He was definitely a little bit more aggressive than he looked. Jammed the button, and I was like, man, this is not like super nitty jam. Like it's actually like kind of probably pretty close to like what a recommended jamming range is. And that a6 off, and it was a really tough spot because like, well, I'm beating a bunch of the kings that jam, but then I'm kind of getting crushed by everything else. I kind of feel like this is probably a fold in theory, and I wasn't really sure. And then after looking at it, and doing the poll, it ended up the a7 off is a fold there. He ended up calling. He had king queen, then up holding, doubling. And then I was able to just sort of just coast along. Then I played this huge hand, and again, like this is why I wish I'd written things down like Brian did because I kind of don't remember all the details. But I raised with king jack off under the gun. Player called in the cutoff, and I had I want to say about like 16 bigs at this point. Player in the cutoff called, player in the big blind called, and a player in the big blind is a little bit of a loose reg. The flop came 3, 8, 3, 9, 10. So basically I had a gutter ball to the queen. This player leads out from the big blind, but he let out very small, something like 15-20% pot. So I ended up calling, with my 2 over cards and the gutter. Then the player behind called as well, and I was like, oh man, this is not good. The turn was a 7.
Give you double gutter?
7. Yeah, so then it gave me a double gutter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man. So now I have 2 overs and a double gutter. And I wasn't really sure what to do here because I was like, this player is probably just going to jam. I think I have close to maybe like a 1.2 to 1 stack to pot ratio. He ends up leading small again, like about a third pot. And I was like, well, I should continue here, but I got to worry about the person behind me. But then my read was kind of like the person behind me wasn't actually that strong as well. So he might either like fold or call. Then I just flatted again. The player behind me calls again. Then the river was a king. Now I hit my top pair. The player in the blind checks. And now I think what I probably should do here, given how deep we were and how big the pot was already, that it was probably enough that I should just sort of just check and try to get to a showdown. But I felt very strongly that I just hit the best hand. I felt like so strongly about it. So I just shipped. Player behind folded, and then the blind tanked forever. He ended up calling. He had just basically flopped bottom pair with the 3.
What?
But he
What?
ended up calling it off
With
because
bottom pair?
yeah, I mean I guess what I jammed in there was probably what it was giving him like some odds, but it was just crazy that he actually called it off.
But the open-ended got there, and a different
Yeah.
open-ended got there in the turn, and
Yeah.
all.
So
Oh
so
wow!
that basically punted me all the way up to like close to the chip lead.
And as soon as that hand ended, Derek said, "Let's look at numbers. Pause the clock.
Yeah.
Do you guys
I
want to
think it
talk
was-
numbers?"
I think
count
at that
stacks, look
point,
at numbers.
I think at that point it was down to like 14 players, but then after that, with the big stack, I just completely shifted my and I've learned so much about playing a short stack at this point, where it's kind of like I have 12 BBs under the gun. I have ace five suited. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to min raise and then just kind of fold to any sort of pressure. And I can just keep floating along at 10 to 8 big blinds. I'm totally fine doing that. I just don't get discouraged. You know, I did that. I raised with ace five suited under the gun with 12 bigs. The flop came up like 998. And I was like, I'm just going to continue on this, right? Let out about like 20% pot. Person just like check raises me. I'm just like fold. And I wasn't even frustrated about it, right? Down to 8 bigs. Fine. I'm just going to float along. And that's kind of what I did for about 2 hours until that hand happened. And then after that, I was kind of just running over the two tables until we got down to, you know, the final seven.
Gotcha.
Somebody asked about numbers, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go ahead and take it. I get the trophy. We're talking about, you know, like you know, whatever it is, like maybe 2K.
Yeah.
And the same thing, Brian, is like I actually ran the numbers in ICMizer, and I think what ICMizer said was like something like 6,200 or something for what the chop was. But then whatever the commerce formula was gave me like 7K, and I was like, great, I'll just take that.
Yeah.
That's like more than what the.
So a couple things for you guys. So Brian was mentioning that when they got to the end, he didn't realize you couldn't just say, let's chop some number and now let's play for a small amount and play the trophy up, because all the floors, anyone who's gotten to the end of these tournaments, you'll know that once you make a deal, none of the floors want you to make a deal where let's do this and play for the tournament, especially if you're like the last event of the day. They basically they say that like rules, you can't do it. We're just, if you chop, we're done. So you have to be really, really savvy with trying to negotiate or get a floor that's friendlier, I guess. Or you have to be one of the early events to have some wiggle room, honestly. When I was the one time that I was in a kind of a chop and let's play it out situation, we were able to negotiate, well, look, let us do 5-minute blinds. So we basically had 2 hands per level, and just play it. We'll play it out really fast like that. And we were playing it basically like all in or fold because, you know, that's how it was. So they agreed to that. But like, and you kind of have to sympathize, right? If they let you keep playing, they have all their staff that has to stay there. They have to keep like 2 dealers. They have to keep 2 floor. They have to keep the payout guy. Everyone has to stay, and they're paying them all. And you guys, you know, for us, obviously we want to play for the trophy and really win it, but they're just paying money, and they're like, you're not making any more money. So be careful about that. And also, if the trophy is what's on your mind, make sure when you ask for the numbers, you have the most chips, because that is what commerce is 100%. You have the most chips, you're getting it. Yep. It is, though, they will, if you're not the last event or if you come up with something funny, they will let you do it sometimes, though, because I do know last year, I know of an event, I think somewhere Rachel Gardner won the trophy. They did a thing where there was a chop and they played the trophy, and they actually did play a bit because she did not have the most money in the chop by far. She had like the 3rd or 2nd most. And then one other thing that you should know is that I know the bike does this, and I'm assuming based on what you guys just said that Commerce does this as well. So a lot of these casinos, they're running a chip chop number, not an ICM chop, when you ask to run numbers. And I don't understand why it takes so long, but that is what they're running. And I can absolutely confirm that for the bike, because when when we chopped a 3-way in one of those nightly thingies, the one guy had such a massive chip advantage on us. When they came back with the numbers, he actually got like the entire first place money, which is just stupid because that's not a thing. Whereas ICM had us way closer, and we actually changed the numbers big time for our deal. So be careful with that as well. Always, my advice is always bring up your phones. You're going to be able to do it way faster when they're walking around and writing down everyone's stacks. Like, have ICM calculator out and just put the stacks in as you're going, because I know the bike does it. It sounds like the Commerce does it. I don't know about the Gardens, but they all have their own custom calculators, and most of them are chip chop.
It's not exactly chip chop. It's a little something weird and different, but I was like, you know what? I'll take more money.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's like chip chop times the placements or something, right? It's probably like something like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about this until now, but yeah, like I mean, that's a great idea for the future. Is always make sure you just run your own numbers and make sure they're doing it right, because there's certainly no assurance of that.
Yeah, because they say they're going to run the numbers. You know, someone might say, oh, they're doing ICM, but they're not. And honestly, depending on which floor you get, they may not even know what ICM is. They may not know what. They may not know what.
I know when I saw the chop, it said ICM chop on the like sheet they did. I mean,
but you ran it in ICM, and it wasn't the same.
I did. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, you guys did on your page anyway, but yeah, I don't know. I just remember being like super tired and just like not really thinking about any of this in the moment. But like, yeah.
So I know the bike's that way.
Very good point to like
just check it.
Do your own work. Yeah.
Definitely check it. Unless you have an overwhelming chip lead.
Especially since my chop was only 3-way. I mean, Derek's like a 7-way chop. It might take a little while to like get on your phone and calculate that.
Yeah.
For a 3-way chop, I mean, you know.
It's
only
worth.
takes a minute or so.
Yep,
So
yep,
definitely worth it. Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and I think Stefan was the person in last place, and he had like a mini stack. I think he had like 3 bigs or something. He ended up getting more than what seventh place should have got. So, definitely 7-way chops are helpful.
Yeah, well, you can
for
never
the
get less
bottom
than
stacks.
seventh place, so I mean,
Right.
he's going to get
Yeah.
more.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Sure.
That'd be
yeah.
the floor. Yeah.
Yep, he's
Yeah.
never going to get less than seventh place. It's just that, what is that ratio? So just make
Yeah.
sure, like I said, unless you have an overwhelming chip lead, if you have an overwhelming chip lead at the bike, try not to have anyone look at the numbers on their phones. Use the ones they give you because you're going to have it better. Just so everyone knows, chip chops are better for the big stacks, and ICM
They are
chops are
always,
better
yeah.
for the smaller stacks in general. So just so you know. All right. Awesome. So I think it is time for our roundup now. Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. You are welcome to stay and look over the schedule of everything you can't play this weekend because you are going to be playing Stay-at-Home Dad. Totally welcome to stay and check out the events, or you can hop off. We loved having you on. We are going to do our final segment of the week.
Great time, and I'll hope to see you at some tournament soon, probably next month.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks,
We'll
Brian,
see
for
you
coming
there.
on, man.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Been
take
a
care.
pleasure. We'll see you around. We'll see you definitely. I'll see you all the time now.
Yep, that's right.
All right.
All right, see ya.
See you guys.
So I kind of lied. I do want to take one quick detour. So if you didn't know, we have the Player of the Year standings updated up through the Mystery Bounty weekend. We do not have it for the XL Bounty weekend because they haven't put the XL Bounty up. So through the Mystery Bounty weekend, and we still have Aaron Zhang at first place here with a decent little cushion here. I don't think Hugh played much at Commerce or didn't gain a lot of points, so he hasn't caught up to him. But we do have Armin, we do have Kevin, we do have Joel, I think, coming up, and Eugene are all making a good push into the top 10 here. And we have Beth in 14th now. So we have a lot of people making some good movement up just through the Mystery Bounty. And then after we update these numbers, I think Derek is going to catch up to me big time. Derek's currently way down the list here somewhere and I'm going to search for you. You know where you are. But getting a win is huge, and he's going to jump right up. According to our buddy who made this formula, he said that win alone would jump him to like 450 or so, I think. And then you final tabled the week before the one day as well, right? Whereas I have this 18th place to put on there, so this 18th place will get me some points too. So you and I are going to be pretty darn close once all of these Commerce events come through. So in that same vein, I've also updated the events that count sheet with the bike schedule. It's going to be similar to before. Pretty much all of the Hold'em events that are trophy events that are not quantums are going to count. So that is also updated on the webpage. Check it out if that's something you are looking into. And we're gonna research and do our research and try and find a trophy that's not going to break the bank but looks cool. We'll try and find something for the winner, I think. I think we have to at this point because people actually are taking a look. I heard Beth talking about it. I heard Aaron talking about it. I heard
Oh, no kidding.
people
I'm
are
glad that,
actually caring about
yeah.
it. They're actually they're actually noticing. So I think we got to find a little something for the winner. All right. So what's happening this week? Well, as we mentioned earlier, the Gardens has their SoCal Fall Special underway right now. Tomorrow is the Knockout Bounty, $50 bounties. It's a $50K guarantee. Good one. Counts for the Player of the Year. Then on Thursday, the main event starts. This is an amazing event. 1,100 buy-in, 500K guarantee. Best rake in town. Same structure as the main event we just had. Same structure as Park West Classic. There is a slight difference. You get a little bit less chips to start with, but the structure and the number of the levels and the blinds are the same. And the day 2, I believe, has hour-long levels. So the day 2 part of it's actually better because we had 40-minute levels through day 2 of the Commerce event. But I'd have to bring that up again. So that's going on all through this weekend. And then on Sunday, they will have another 50K guarantee on Sunday, then another super bounty happening. Oh, a super bounty happening, which I believe, that is like the XL bounty. So that will be $500 bounties once you're in the money on Sunday over at the Gardens. And of course, they'll be running these really fun milestone mystery bounty mega satellites all throughout the week as well, as long as the day ones are still happening. Definitely recommend you play those. Super fun. At Lucky Lady, they're still not done with their fall kickoff. This week is currently underway is the 100K guarantee Red Zone Challenge. It's a very nice low buy-in, high guarantee tournament, $235 buy-in. that is happening over there. If you want to go, and I don't know if Jeremy's trying to go for the hat trick over there or not, but he might be. Yeah. Yeah, he's on fire for sure. And then on Sunday they have a 1-day $30K guarantee going on over there, $150 buy-in. And then not starting this week, but coming up, the bike will be starting in 2 weeks. So we talked about that last week. Just to let you know that schedule is going to be going on. And in 2 weeks, so the first weekend in October, they will start their 1-days. I also wanted to bring up, shout out to Jeff Hayer. He's been in the chat before. He sent us his analysis of all the events going on in the next week with his formula. As we talked about before, it is kind of like the one on Rainbow Puppies. A couple tweaks to try and help some of the local stuff. And just to get a sense of it, if you look, the 75K guarantee that happened at Lucky Lady that I was saying had a pretty good structure. That is rated at 71 points. And this is kind of like a value score, right? For like how much play you get per value of the stuff. I don't think they take the rake into enough count personally, but that's a different column here. So that one got a 71. The main event at Commerce, was the highest scoring one of the week for 108. So that is kind of like the benchmark highest value tournament as far as chip stack to structure goes. So this rating is really your structure rating, right? And then the Gardens main event is an 88, and that is because you start with fewer chips, because I said the structure is basically exactly the same. And then you can see the other events going on as well. So the Lucky Lady 1-day, or the Lucky Lady 100K, sorry, it scores at a 46, so that's scoring at half of what the Gardens main event is scoring. The Gardens 50K guarantees are, where did that one go? The Wednesday bounty is getting a 44. The Sunday, does he have the Sunday bounty in here? Oh, I don't think he listed the Sunday bounty. He missed that one. And then Commerce, we're back to daily tournaments after this. Those are all going to be lower scoring in this system. So if you want more to know more about this, you can either go to the Rainbow Puppies Sunshine website and use their website, pop in the info yourself, or Jeff has this, and I think I will put this, maybe we'll put a link to this on the website as well. I don't want to commit Jeff to doing this often, but if he's going to keep sending these to us, we'll share them out with you guys. So we'll definitely share this one.
And I do want to apologize to Jeff because he sent me this a while ago on LinkedIn, and I've been so freaking swamped over the last couple weeks, haven't looked at it, but that is an unbelievable spreadsheet.
Yep.
I mean, it quantitatively measures like value of a tournament, so that's it's incredible.
Yeah, so super cool thing if you're trying to get in the highest value for your dollar as far as structure and play goes. Definitely take a look, and I'm sure it does take in buy-in and stuff as well. So. Yeah. Jeremy's in the chat. Jeremy's in the chat petitioning. He keeps winning every event that doesn't count for Player of the Year. He would like them all in. But look, Jeremy, I know they're going to report those. So, honestly, if they report that whole series, I might be willing to retroactively add some of the Lucky Lady events. But
yeah, so Jer, go over there and apply some pressure.
Yeah, if they report all of the entire series in, I may be willing to bend on some of those events. The main reason we weren't going to include any of those or the Hollywood Park ones is because those casinos do not report. All right, well, that's been quite a show. Super fun show. We talked a whole bunch of hands. We talked some strategy. Got to know our new local crusher, Mr. Hastings. And thank you all for joining us in the chat and for hanging out with us tonight. Man, I'm tired, man. I know you're tired. You've been working your butt off. And I cannot wait. But I cannot wait for this weekend for this main event over at the Gardens. It's going to be awesome.
I'm so sad I'm going to miss it. I mean, I was really looking forward to this. I have an unavoidable thing on Sunday. So
I'm just, that's
good
terrible.
Luck. Good luck. Yep. Good luck to you, buddy.
All right. I'll just have to carry the flag for both of us, man. We came within 17 places of shipping both of the tournaments at Commerce,
that
man.
That would have been sweet.
So close.
Like that, yeah.
Even if we just both final tabled, what a headline we'd have. We'll get another shot at it, though. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you hanging out. Good luck wherever you decide to play this weekend. We still have a lot of series going on, as you know, and we will see you at the tables.
See you at the tables, everyone.